Hi, I'm Valerie Espinoza, your Public Regulation Commissioner, and I'd like to welcome you back to yet another edition of our program. And I'd like to welcome a good friend of mine who is running now for, this is Mr. Dan Stoddard. We met when I was the Santa Fe County Clerk and he was the Clovis County Commissioner?
Curry County Commissioner and Clovis Commissioner.
And Clovis, hey, I wasn't wrong.
You were correct.
I had that right. Anyhow, it's a pleasure to see you again. It's been good to follow you, and you're now in my district in Rio Rancho, and it's a pleasure to see you. I know all about you. You're a hard worker, and nobody can tell me any different.
Well,
so
thank you.
Welcome. And now you're running for magistrate judge of Sandoval County.
Division 1, correct.
Division 1.
There are 3 magistrate judges.
Okay.
And that's set up because of caseload.
Right.
And the average magistrate judge sees 50 to 80 cases a day.
Ouch.
Yes.
I believe it.
So we have 2 magistrate judges in Rio Rancho, Division 1 and 3.
And who's serving on those benches?
Right now, it's Judge Baca and Judge Zanotti. Mm-hmm. And then we have another gentleman judge that is serving in Cuba. And so he's running unopposed right now, but the 2 in Rio Rancho, it's a contested race.
I ran unopposed myself, so I feel lucky the second time.
Well, you worked hard for that.
I did, and that was a tough one. It's been good. I have 2 more years left, so
and hopefully it'll go quick.
Sometimes I want that. Yes. I mean, we were talking about the ambulance services and your wife working for Prez, and there's a lot of issues that the PRC deals with, not just utility rates,
right,
and not just renewable energy projects, but we've got the towing, the ambulance, the transportation, the fire marshal, and so I'm sure our paths will definitely continue to cross. So I want to wish you luck, and
thank you.
Again, I'm just excited to see you and look forward to seeing you in Rio Rancho. Sometimes my daughter lives there. And so what I really want to ask you, though, and I know you've served, and I want to hear about yourself, what you've done. I know you've served, so hats off to you for that.
Thank you.
I respect that totally. I think I was telling the other gentleman that my sister was in the Air Force as well, and we got to salute you, not just on Veterans Day, every day, I think.
Thank you.
And so with that, I want to hear all about what you've been doing in the state of New Mexico and where you've been for the last, since I last saw you, since we were both serving in the county.
And that was some good times. We got a lot accomplished.
Absolutely. Did you serve on the board also?
I did.
Is
2
that
terms.
where we both?
Yes, that's where we both started
Executive
to meet.
Board for
Yes.
the Association of Counties, right?
And then at the same time, I worked with the Municipal League and ended up getting elected to their board at large, and working with Bill Foginetti. So
yes,
working
he's a
with
good
Paul
guy. He's
and
still
Bill.
here.
Oh,
He's
it's great. I still keep in touch with him.
Yeah, he
and I
gets
follow
things
Paul
rolling.
on Facebook once in a while and all his travels.
Paul Gutierrez.
Gutierrez, yes,
yeah,
remember?
he's
Yes.
doing well. We have a lot of good people working for us.
We have a lot of great people in our state, and
That's it.
what keeps me wanting to engage and to serve is all those great people. As you asked, how did I start? As working in the Coast Guard, serving as a veteran there and traveling around and serving our country, it started there. When I moved to New Mexico, I ended up starting my own company and became an assisted living provider out of homes.
Outstanding.
And my wife and I did that together. As you mentioned, she's a nurse, so we worked on that. And that was, it really shows you the people that you get a very broad knowledge of people in our state.
And their needs.
And definitely their needs, and especially as they get older. But it makes you also appreciate what they put into your communities for you to have what we both have. And as we continue to fight and work to make our communities better, they did the same. But a lot of people, as you go day to day, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you don't really get that appreciation of what made New Mexico this great state. And so with that is what encouraged me to become a county commissioner first. Then somebody asked me if I would run for city also.
I know, that's how it starts. They ask you to run, and then you say, okay, well, you know.
And then the next thing you know, you're traveling around this great state, and it really has been a blessing. Between you and I know we've accomplished a lot. When I was a county commissioner, I don't know if you remember when they were going to close Cannon, and we were in the BRAC hearings. They ended up giving us an enclave. As county commissioner, we were able to get a mission back there.
And funding?
And funding. And the last I heard, they had spent over $1.3 billion in Canada, and that was a few years ago. It's amazing the mission that's there now. And I had the blessing of being an honorary base commander there for a year to really get to see what they did. So from that, my wife is a nurse at Presbyterian, as you mentioned. She decided that she wanted to move to Albuquerque for more options and
So
wanted
you
to
moved
get
from small town USA to big city.
to Rio Rancho, Sandoval County. And so I kept my assisted living in Santa Rosa, kept serving over there, and there was a great need. So from that, I ended up getting re-engaged again, tapped to be on an ethics committee.
Oh, tell me more about that ethics committee.
Well, Sandoval County did not have an ethics policy.
Right.
And so they just finally voted it in a couple months ago.
Can I get a copy of that?
You sure can.
Okay.
I'll make sure you get a copy.
Thank you.
So what we did, we worked with 5 different people from the community, one from each district, from the commission. And we didn't reinvent the wheel. We looked around the state, we looked around the country, and tried to bring in something that would make sense, something that was enforceable, and holding our employees accountable.
Now, how do you do that at the end of the day? Let's say, what's the
Well,
outcome,
they're gonna.
the end goal?
We're trying to finish up that. The county commission is. So they have a few options, and what they're looking at is possibly hiring somebody to be their ethics manager that will not work for the county commission, but will be a county employee and work directly with the manager, so there won't be a conflict or favoritism. It really gets into depth. I don't think we have enough time to go into all the options and all the considerations. Like I said, it took us a year, but I will send you that, and you should take a look at it.
It's sort of like an IG position in a sense.
Yes, exactly. And then, of course, you'll have due process. They'll get to hear the case. If there's no merit, somebody just complaining they don't like the other employee, well, they can figure that out. They are going to set up a ethics commission, and they were looking at having 2 commissioners from each district so that you could at least have one of them show up, so you'd always have 5. They would get to look at the merits of the case and decide whether it needed to move forward or not. So that's pretty much that in a nutshell.
Sort of mediate that.
Yes.
I used to do that in Los Alamos, mediation, and that was pretty interesting, to listen to both sides.
And that way at least you get a fair shot.
Interesting. Well, good for you.
Well,
That's
thank you.
important in this day and age, not only for transparency, but, you've got to be accountable.
We have to be accountable to our constituents at all times.
Yeah.
And they need to know we're treating their funds fairly.
That's right, because at the end of the day, it'll, really, it can get disturbing when things go wrong and you just have no control over it. It just happens, There's some people that you work with and you just, just don't see eye to eye, especially when it harms the public.
Right. And there's got to be a way to get that out and to fix that problem.
That's right.
So I was very happy to serve on that, and I also serve on the Planning and Zoning Commission for Sandoval County.
Oh my goodness! So tell me a little bit about what's going on with the drilling and
well, there's over
the wells.
500 wells there, and some people in our community would like to see a ban on fracking, which we can't do because we already have wells active in Sandoval County. So what we tried to do, because again, there was nothing in place if somebody wanted to come drill. And as you know from working with the county, we can only regulate the land.
That's right.
We already have state...
Not the rights underneath.
That's right. Or the air or the water. I mean, we already have federal and state guidelines for all of that. So the P&Z Commission just put forward 2 more bills, 2 more ordinances, and we're hoping the county commission will get that resolved. Because again, as we saw, look at the revenue, the excess revenue. What do we have? 1.4 billion. What did they say?
I'm not
this
even
year.
sure.
It's a lot. It's over $1 billion.
Or
for
the state. For the
excess
state.
From oil and gas.
Oh, I see. Yes, absolutely.
So what
no kidding.
So what
they're
if
the
we
biggest,
had more drilling in Sandoval County where it's safe, where it's...
They're the biggest contributor to
Exactly. For our schools,
the
what,
budget.
35%?
Right.
So why wouldn't we want to keep our young adults that are going to college wanting to stay here, because we know all the spinoffs from the oil and gas industry.
That's true.
So,
that's very true. And now that it's an election year, we hear more about it. So what are you doing now? I know you're running for magistrate judge. We'll talk about that in a minute. But what are you doing now?
So right now, I'm just running my campaign. solely. I'm taking care of
What's
my
that been like?
It's been a whirlwind. I feel like I'm going down the rapids, but I'm not tipping over.
Interesting.
So
Well,
it's
you're
been
good at campaigning. You're good at the issues. You're good at problem solving. I mean, I saw you in action when we served on the board, and you are so approachable. And that's what a lot of people look for in candidates, is someone who's approachable. I feel that way about myself.
Thank you. And you are. And
you know,
are.
most people call me, they can reach me, and we deal with the issues at hand. And so I wish you luck, and tell me about what it's been like.
Well, when I first
to run, knock on doors.
When I first started to consider this, I wanted to find out what were the issues. Just like yourself, get informed. I talked with Sheriff's Department employees, spoke with law enforcement on Rio Rancho PD. I went to the jail, talked to they had an administrator there that was just interim at the time. You know, they had a couple of jail breaks down there. They've got problems. They've got over $5 million the county does of repairs they're trying to work on now, which is another big issue around our whole state, as you know. But I wanted to make sure that if I did do this, could I make a difference? I wasn't looking for a job. I was looking to be able to serve our community, make it a better place than what it is right now, and when I moved there. So looking at the court systems, looking at what was going on, and talking to everybody, the biggest issue that I've found, and there's a couple of them, but the biggest is we need the justice system, the judicial system, to work with law enforcement. We all read the papers. We all see these people getting 16 DWIs. We see homes getting broken into. We see them being released over and over again. And to me, we need to bring common sense to the bench. It's that simple.
You can be fair, but on the other hand,
be
if you
firm,
have somebody
but fair.
that's firm but fair, but when you have somebody that's been in before you 10 times,
Well, exactly. And even if they haven't come before you, but you see the record of recidivism, it's like, when does the madness stop?
Are you going to stop that?
I am going to stop the madness.
How?
By following the law, following the dictates of the law, and being fair but firm.
I have a question.
Picture.
I have a question for you, and then I'll let you finish.
Sure.
I'm just kind of curious. I've never really asked this kind of question, but public perception out there, and just given the situation that happened in Taos, I couldn't say. All I know is that I couldn't. I'm not pointing fingers at the DA or the judge or anybody right now, but when something like that happens, isn't the evidence like right in front of you, or do you, like you say, you got to follow the law, and if it's not there, or can you go beyond that and say, oh my gosh, we found we found what we found on the property, and I don't know. I just kind of wonder how you.
As a judge candidate, you're really not supposed to talk about specific different cases because you never know if they're going to come up before you.
I see.
And so, do you already?
So
have
you're
prejudice?
off the hook.
No, but what I can say is, we need to bring common sense. When you get a case and you look at all of the evidence that's in front of you, when you've listened to law enforcement, and we should trust what law enforcement says, and you look at that defendant, I don't see how you can't come up with a common sense way to keep your community safe. I believe it's that simple.
Interesting.
And when people come to my court, I want them to know that they probably don't want to be there.
So what kind of cases come before you in magistrate?
Magistrate, we have civil cases, say landlord, tenant, that type of stuff, up to $10,000. Your first 3 WI cases, traffic cases. So anything like a municipal court, but it was in the county, then you would handle those.
I see.
And then you also have to be available for law enforcement to sign bench warrants.
At all hours of the day and night, right?
Yes.
And I suppose you're willing to get up at 3 in the morning and come over and sign it.
And it's going to be a busy time when you're handling 50 to 80 cases a day, is on average what each magistrate handles. You're going to have a busy time. But again, you can make that difference for your community.
So what are some of those issues facing the judiciary in Sandoval County?
Talking to the people, knocking on the doors, as you said, and I've knocked on a lot of them since January. People are scared. People are scared. Sandoval County, Rio Rancho is a safe community.
It seems like it.
And I can tell you that because it's not by mistake that we're safe. It's because our constituents there are looking at the candidates and electing the right people to keep us safe. I really believe that.
Do you know that voters are not dumb?
No.
They're smart.
They're very informed, and they want to be informed, and they appreciate you knocking their doors, talking about the issues, and listening. I do more listening than talking when I'm with them.
Do you?
Because I want to learn. I want to learn what bothers them, what's going on in their neighborhoods. You know, how many cars have been stolen, motorcycles, you know, trailers, batteries. You know, these thieves are taking mobile home batteries, camper batteries.
Oh, they took mine too.
Thank you. Because it's not a felony. So they can take them. It's a misdemeanor.
They already know that.
They know the system.
Yes.
So we need to make sure.
They jumped a big fence where we had them stored.
Right.
Jumped it, took it out. Brand new.
So you know. Motorcycles. They're taking anything that they can get their hands on. It's a shame. And my goal as magistrate judge for Division 1 will be to make sure I show them the boundaries of Sandoval County. And if they come into Sandoval County to victimize our constituents, they're going to think twice to come back.
Interesting. So which is your area?
All of Sandoval County.
Rio Rancho.
All of Sandoval County. So what happens
I always
is,
call Sandoval
that's
Rio.
okay. But what happens is for us, I don't know if you're familiar, but when somebody gets arrested, so with the 3 magistrate judges, what happens is, as the officer is booking him in, it's my understanding that the computer will send the case to what judge?
Is it random?
It's
sort
random,
of like
so that there's
by
no
caseload?
favoritism showing. No, well, and even the cases. So depending on what's coming in that evening or that day or that week, and the computer just picks where they're going to send them.
Interesting.
Yes.
So you want to continue to serve, and so what would you do differently to make things more efficient? Or,
you know, looking at things we can do,
Progressive.
we're not doing video arraignment right now in our county at the magistrate courts, which to me, I don't understand. We need to embrace technology because number one, that's a savings to our taxpayers. But let me explain how this works. So somebody gets arrested, they get out on bail, and they're down in Silver City or they're in Roswell or they're up in Santa Fe. Well, if they get picked up because they didn't show up to their hearing, now we have to send 2 deputies in a car out to go pick them up. So number one, it's an expense to us, and number 2, now we're short 2 officers or 4 officers protecting us and our own community. Those deputies have to be out playing a taxi service, and from my understanding, most of the time when they get back to court, it's dismissed on time served.
interesting.
So why
Yeah, or
not-
they use that portion of the time served, isn't it? You know?
Exactly, they can use that.
And then that counts towards your
right.
sentencing.
So why not just have video arraignments and take care of it that way? You're going to keep the courtroom safer. You're going to keep anybody who's in there civilly safer. And I believe we should even, in the jail that we have right there, even though it's connected, I would see what I could do to do video arraignment without even having to take them out of the jail.
Interesting. And that would definitely save.
It would save money, time, and keep our constituents safe. Why take the risk? We all know how expensive it is for our insurance policies. Look at all the cases we have with different things happening, and unfortunately for them, they don't feel they have a risk. They're already in trouble, so let me see if I can get out.
I'm telling you.
You know that.
I know. Well, we see it too. You know,
It's on the news all the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm next door to the insurance superintendent too, so we see all
You
these
see all those cases.
coming forth.
And who does that cost? The taxpayers. We're paying.
They foot the bill on pretty much everything,
Yes.
unfortunately. And so if it weren't for people like yourself or myself, then it'd be even worse. I believe that.
I believe you're correct.
So what would you do about juvenile crime? I know a lot of kids get in the system and they probably shouldn't have, it shouldn't have happened that harsh, and they just get a name for themselves. They're young. Some of them absolutely, yes. But I'm saying, kids in high school that get in trouble and then they all of a sudden they get in the system and they never get out.
Right. But my feeling is from talking to some of these young people, and I've looked into some second chance programs, and I believe the key is education. Now, with that, there has to be some consequence to your actions.
Sure.
So what I mean by that, you come up as you're saying, let's say they had an open container or they ran a stop sign or whatever the case may be, but it's trivial, but it's starting that recidivism for them, because if you just make them pay a fine but don't really have consequences to their actions and you haven't educated them, what's going to happen? They're going to go do it again. So let's educate them, put them in a program, make them pay for it, so you can defer or dismiss the case. They pay the fee to go to this training. When they're done, if they complete it, then you can dismiss the case. They have a clean record. If they don't, then maybe give them a little harsher sentence because they didn't understand you gave them a break already. But when I sat in one of these programs, what was interesting to me, and when I say young adults, I'm talking 40 years old and under. They don't realize the consequences of their actions. They don't think it's going to matter when they're 30 or 40 or 50, and now they're raising a family, and they've got 2 kids. They're trying to get that better job, and all of a sudden that employer, or they want to work for the county, pulls up their resume, and they've been arrested a few times, or they're trying to get a security clearance to work at Sandia or Kirkland. They can't do it. So let's educate them and give them a chance.
That is so important. I mean, their whole future's at stake if once they're in that system.
Exactly. And the good thing is it doesn't cost the taxpayers any money to give them that one break.
I like hearing about that second chance program. That's awesome.
So,
but not for the 40-year-olds, for the 18 and under.
But anybody, if they've never been in trouble before, is what I'm saying. Give them a chance to educate themselves and, hopefully make their lives better, because they really don't know. Sitting in that class, it was amazing to me that they didn't understand their consequences.
Sure. I mean, a little community service won't hurt them either.
No. And I will look into that also.
That's nice. That's good. And so tell me, I know you have qualifications because you've served on boards and served on, you forgot to tell me you worked not only as a city or a county commissioner, but a city. So that certainly qualifies you for the community service part of all of that. What else qualifies you?
Well, I believe, being a city and county commissioner, managing.
You see all the needs.
You see the needs of everybody. You're running, Clovis, I think, was $40 million budget, 400 employees. So you have that vast experience. And then, as you and I did, serving on the boards, going around our state, listening to other communities and what their problems are. It really gives us that roundabout knowledge rather than somebody who has, say, just worked in an office or done just 1 or 2 jobs in their life. You and I have that rounded experience of not only serving in the one job, but helping our whole state.
Do you remember, I agree with you. I think it was when the Sheriff's Association came before us on certification.
Yes.
And I think they're still not required to, you can still run for office, right, without
it, yes.
Any kind of certification. I'm not sure I like that. I don't know about you, but that was then. And
right.
I think there should be some sort of criteria.
Well, I agree with you.
Because there's a criteria for me. There should be criteria for...
Sure.
Right. There is one for you, and there should be one for anyone that runs for sheriff. It can't just be some, I mean, it's okay to have some Joe Blow off the street. It's just that you should have some
You should understand the job that you're taking over.
Right.
Yes, I agree.
And yes, you're right. There were so many different issues that came before the association that were amazing. And
it was an interesting time to serve, wasn't it?
You invest, when you run for office, you invest and you take it very serious, very personal. And sometimes I get very emotional with the issues, and I probably shouldn't, but I do.
Well, how can you not?
That's a good.
How can
that's
you
a
not?
good
When you
thing.
care.
Yeah,
when you care.
That's a good thing. And I think you're right. The association and the county sort of sets that bar and sets the level.
And thanfully for the municipal league too, with Bill Foginetti and all the team that serves there.
Oh yeah, I didn't get to serve with the city, but yeah, he's great. He's a good leader.
And all the people that serve there. It's wonderful. I mean, we have so many wonderful people. And thankfully, our state is small enough that no matter where we go in our state, we're always running into our friends.
That's right. And if you think about it, I mean, anymore, people just don't even want to run for office. It's, they just don't want to run. Sometimes you just, you can't find the candidate or the quality in that candidate. It's just because nobody wants to run and serve anymore.
Well, they don't want to put themselves out there. And you can't blame them when you turn on the news in the past, 5 or 10 years. Look what's happened. So I'm glad I'm able to serve. I'm glad I have this opportunity.
Well, you definitely have extensive experience working with the different segments, and I see that you want to work with law enforcement, and that's a good thing too, because sometimes they get the raw end of the deal, and sometimes they are the ones that are, I know you see some videos that are just absurd, and you can't even understand why they would use excessive force or actually just like shoot somebody. It's crazy. It's some of the things it varies.
You wonder why.
But then and then you wonder, well, maybe it was their life at risk, and it's just really hard to you're going to put yourself out there too, and you're going to have to like you say.
And you're always under a microscope,
That's
as
right.
you know, once you're in office. So even after you leave.
Well, like I say, and again, it's been a pleasure to see you, and I thank you for your service, and I know you'll continue to work with veterans, but I also want to...
Can I touch on that veterans
Yeah,
for a
yeah,
minute?
I want you to use this last couple of minutes to
Okay.
talk about what you're going to do.
So, again, my name is Dan Stoddard. I'm running for Magistrate Judge, Division I in Sandoval County. The key things that I want to focus on is public safety, working with law enforcement and making sure that the judicial system and law enforcement work together. What that means is keeping our community safe, making criminals accountable, and working with our community. So as we spoke about earlier, we want to have a second chance program for our youth. We want to educate them. On the veteran side, we didn't get to talk about that too much, but I would like to have a veterans court, and I would also like to push for our state to mandate for our magistrate courts and to have a veterans court, to give those men and women who served our country, wrote that blank check, a chance. Understand them, hook them up with the services that are out there with the VA, in our community, and let's understand what's happening. Let's try to help them instead of creating a recidivism rate with them also, which in turn saves the taxpayer. And focus on that recidivism rate for the criminals that are coming, and let's look at what we can do to send a message to them that they don't want to continue to commit crimes in Sandoval County.
That's fascinating. It's totally amazing, because sometimes you see veterans on the side of the road with a sign that, I'm a veteran.
And a lot of times they're not veterans.
I know.
And
that's disturbing too,
that
because
is.
you want to give them money because,
Well, you want to help.
Either way.
Sometimes it doesn't help. It just enables in those circumstances. But I am endorsed by the Rio Rancho PD. I am endorsed by Mayor Hull. I am endorsed by Senator Brandt. I am endorsed by Representative Harper, Commissioner Chapman, sorry. And I've had a lot of wonderful response going around our community.
What about Commissioner, is he still Commissioner? I shouldn't even ask this, I should know. David Heil?
Heil, yes.
Yes.
He's working with him too. We've got a wonderful community, Sandoval
He's
County.
always invited me to the Mayor's Fund Day, so I try to take a few items to donate. And, Rio Rancho was a big supporter of mine, and I'm so grateful for all the folks that live in Rio Rancho, as well as Santa Fe and Rio Arriba, Taos, Los Alamos. It's a huge district. But,
and we will continue to be a supporter of yours.
That's right. Well, thank you. And it's been great serving on the PRC and representing Rio Rancho. And, and we briefly talked about the railroads. We regulate railroads, and so we all have so much in common. But I want to wish you luck and thank you for being here. I think we've run out of time. And so keep us all tuned in on the election night results, would you?
I will, thank you. And the last thing I want to say, if anybody wants to look at my campaign, look at what I've done in the past, my website is danstoddard.com. Keep it simple.
That's really easy.
Thank you very much.
danstoddard.com. You've always been very, visible on Facebook and everywhere, so we'll keep track of you. And
thank
good luck
you very
again.
much.
So once again, thank you for watching. If you'd like to appear on this program, please give me a call at 827-4533. Thank you so much for watching.